If you didn't know, the DS in Nintendo DS stands for dual screen. The console is in fact famous for its use of two screens at once. It became a bit of a problem though, as many of those screens and their hinges have broken over time. And as the best-selling handheld of all time, there are millions of broken DSs. While some companies do still sell replacement screens and other parts for the DS, the modding community has come up with a pretty cool alternative. This is the Game Boy Macro, a relatively simple mod that allows you to remove a broken top screen to turn your dual screen console into a dedicated Game Boy Advance. However, this makes a lot of folks angry because this removes the ability to play the large library of DS games that rely on that top screen. And yeah, you could just replace your top screen when it inevitably breaks, but I personally hate having to mess around with the top halves of any DS model. So how does one choose between removing and replacing the top screen? Well, what if I told you you don't actually need the top screen to be able to see the top screen? That didn't really make any sense, but you know what I mean. Straight up, this may just be the most pointless mod I have ever done, but it's really cool. This little mod kit from Luke Wakeford allows you to swap between the top and bottom screens, as well as show both screens at once in a variety of ways while only having one screen available. It's really awesome. While Luke's mod is completely solderless, you do still need to convert your DS into a macro, which does require soldering. Let's just go over how to do this real quick. You can source everything you need for this project yourself, or you can buy this kit directly from Luke on his website. I highly recommend just buying a kit because you do have to flash firmware to your BIOS chip, which might be a little much for some people, myself included. I'll leave a link to the GitHub and his website in the description. You will also need a 330 ohm resistor for the macro part, and I will link my in-depth macro tutorial down below as well. Once you have your DS macroed, you'll need to remove the stylus holder from the bottom half of the shell and screw down this little board in its place. This is your button controls for swapping screens. You'll want to slot the 3D printed piece into the hole and place the board on top of that. Once it's screwed down, make sure you can click the button all three ways. Mine doesn't make a clicking sound when I press it in from the side, but it does work. However, it should at least click when you press it in from the back and when you pull it out. From there, you can plug the ribbon cable into the daughter board pins down, and then plug the other end pins down into the top screen connector like this. Make sure it's as far to the right as possible. All of this is really easy to mess up, so I highly recommend testing everything before you button it all up. I messed up in several ways that we'll talk about in a minute, but that's really all there is to it. If you would like more help, I'll have a more in-depth tutorial going over this on the second channel, Jake64, link down below. But for now, let's review this thing. As I mentioned earlier, I did struggle a bit with this mod. I tried to fit a speaker in the shell in several spots, but it's not really feasible when this mod needs the top screen connector and uses the space of the old stylus holder. I tried to fit a speaker here, but that just ended up ruining my bottom screen's ribbon cable. That was totally user error though. Thankfully, I have a ton of extra bottom screens and I was able to replace it after only a bit of struggling. And by a bit, I mean I struggled a lot to close this thing up without the L button popping off constantly. It is possible that it was the new Extreme 8 shell. However, I think it was just the fact that this ribbon cable is extremely annoying to deal with in this position. Since you aren't supposed to crease ribbon cables, this one kept pushing the L button out of place over and over and over again, to the point where I was getting real life angry at this mod. I genuinely recommend soldering if you're comfortable with it so you can route the wires through somewhere else. Literally route them anywhere else. Beyond the frustrations of putting it together, I unfortunately didn't enjoy this mod as much as I thought I would. Like a lot of people, the majority of the games I play on my DS are Pokemon games. In the main series, Pokemon games really don't need two screens, so I thought this mod would be great for those games. I ended up collecting a few badges in Pokemon Black 2 on this device, and it wasn't too bad, but I found myself slightly annoyed having to swap screens a bunch of times throughout every battle. While I could have played using picture-in-picture mode, I do not enjoy staring at this the whole time I play, no matter what the opacity is or which side it's on. I prefer just having one screen full screen at all times, and just swapping when I needed to, and definitely not whatever this is. I was also going to attempt to play Pokemon Ranger on here, but now I don't even want to try it. There may be some other DS games that use the bottom screen even less than the mainline Pokemon games that might be better suited for this mod, but I feel like most games for the DS were made with both screens in mind. no matter how little they actually use both screens. Maybe Super Mario 64 DS, but even then you're going to be covering up the screen with your hand and stylus, making it harder to see what you're actually doing. Plus, it's much harder to carry a stylus around now that the slot is in use. In general, there's a lot more DS games that use both screens than just primarily using one screen. Shocking, I know, your mind is probably blown right now. Who would have thought the dual screen system uses both screens at the same time? A lot. Like I said at the beginning, this is probably the most pointless mod I have ever done. You should probably just replace your top screen instead of forcing it into the bottom screen. And yes, hinges, or rather the plastic holding the hinges, break too, but the clamshell design will help protect the top and bottom screen. So should you do this mod? Probably not. But is it super cool and creative? Absolutely. If you're the same kind of weird as I am, for like 25 bucks, you might as well upgrade your macro back to DS status. Or would it be SS? The SS macro kind of goes well with my Great Wave theme. But let me know what you guys think in those comments down below. I know I made fun of it a bit, but I do genuinely think it's cool. Again, check out the second channel for a more in-depth-ish tutorial going over this mod. I also did a video about how to de-yellow your DS screens recently that you might want to look at. But that's about all I got for this one. So like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys. I will gift a membership to the first person who can name this song. I messed up again.